Hey guys, welcome to the Starting 11 with myself, Michelle, Billy, and Joe. It's a weekly show on 8 o'clock on Mondays where we talk about the biggest stories from the Premier League weekend. So, welcome, guys. How are we feeling? Billy,
Very
you happy?
good, thank you. Especially after
Good,
that
Joe,
Chelsea
how are
win.
you? Oh,
Yeah,
good.
good week of football. Other than, I know I always bring them up because it's a Premier League show, but other than a draw at home at Fratton Park at the weekend, it was a good weekend of football.
But then that means none of our teams lost.
Yeah,
That's
no
a win.
one lost.
That is a win.
No
That is
points.
Okay.
Always look at the positive sides. Cool. So, shall we kick off with the biggest game of the weekend? Arsenal 3, Liverpool 2. What's our thoughts? I mean, I've got many thoughts about Arsenal's win because we're still top of the league. But yeah, what did you guys think of the game? It was a great game. Let's not lie. It was brilliant.
Joe, you can kick it off. Joe, you kick it off.
I thought it was a fabulous display from Arsenal. I keep trying to think of the word because gutsy is not the right word. I think Arsenal of old, I actually predicted 2-2 in this because although I fancied Arsenal to win it, with my head, my heart is just still with the old Arsenal. And the way they controlled that second half after conceding probably 2 goals that were a little bit against a run of play, I just think that's a new breed of Arsenal. And that stadium is breathing again. And they deserve the win. And to be honest, I think 3-2 flattered Liverpool in the whole game. We can talk about Liverpool's frailties, but I think that's just negative. I think from a general football fan watching the game, don't care who wins. I know Liverpool's, but form goes out the window when it's like these type of games, Liverpool, Arsenal. But Arsenal didn't let form go out the window. They controlled the game, and I think hats off to Arsenal. My man Saka again with a couple of goals. You know, a couple of months ago, well, seems like a couple of months ago, a little while ago now, he missed a penalty in the World Cup. The man hasn't looked back since, to be honest. And I think he's a fantastic human to have at a football club. And I'd like to be in the stadium to feel, because I feel it watching Arsenal. And it's nice. It's nice. I don't like to see any club struggling. I know you guys probably do, but I like to see good. No, but I like to see good competitive football.
Yeah.
United, Arsenal, City, Tottenham. I want to see real battles because I think if anything, that's what I've missed in the Premier League is teams being able to compete on a level, because City have been, to be honest, pulling away for the last 5-6 years. Just an absolute class display.
Yeah, I'd have to completely agree. Arsenal again with another phenomenal performance. Yeah, I mean, the North London derby they had last week or the week before, they were incredible in that. And again with Liverpool, I think a couple things that happened in the game with the penalty shout. Arsenal got very lucky that they weren't able to concede a penalty. Gabriel's handball, I don't know if you saw how you felt on that handball. It felt very much his hand was in the air, out of control. It looked a handball, and it should have been given as a penalty.
I think it just goes to the inconsistency. Yeah, I think that could have been given by another ref, if I'm honest. Definitely.
And with the Jesus penalty that was given to Saka, I can't see that from what I've saw with the highlights of it, it didn't look like a penalty. It looked very harsh to be given as a penalty. But if you two could elaborate as to if you think it was a penalty or not.
It was a bit of a daft challenge, to be honest. Yeah. To even sort of stick. I don't like VAR for that reason. You can almost touch anyone now, and it could be. It doesn't even matter if the contact affects your balance or anything. It is a touch, and they look on the monitor and go, "Yeah, he touched his leg, penalty off." If I'm honest, I wouldn't have given either of them.
Not the handball?
No, I wouldn't have given either of them because I don't think he made himself bigger, and I think it was very close. I think if he was a little bit further away, for me, it was a given penalty. But just because of how close he was not really getting any real advantage. I think they're both pretty even. I think they both should have been given or both not given, by the way.
They were both 50-50.
I wouldn't have given neither, personally.
But then obviously Michael Oliver made that decision about Jesus' penalty on the pitch, right? So VAR really getting like from what
VAR will only get involved if they think it's a clear and obvious error, and it isn't.
And it isn't, because actually Thiago kicked through him, right? So like he could completely miss the ball, kicked literally his foot. Whether it impacted what Jesus' shot looked like afterwards, no one knows, right? But at the same time, if you look,
what's your opinion? Because I don't think it did.
I think it was soft. I'll be honest. It was soft, and actually, Jesus did make a meal of it. But I'm not complaining, because these are things with these decisions, right? It comes and goes. So I think there's a couple of handballs across the other games this weekend, right? And actually, some were given, some weren't. Like some goals were allowed, some weren't. So like, it does even itself out. I think with the Gabriel situation, it was close. Also, unnatural position plays a part, right? So he was trying to get across to block the shot, right? As an athlete, you have to kind of move. You move in a certain way, right? You're moving to the side. Naturally,
it's the same when you jump and you have to use your arms. You have to. Refs don't take it into account. Like they just say unnatural position or not. But what's an unnatural position? Because an unnatural position is different to me stood up, to me jumping for a header. So, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense, and I think that needs to be taken into account. So I think what we're starting to do is, like football fans, is start to look at like black and white, like this is like that. It's his hands as a penalty, but I'm like, actually, the action wasn't unnatural, and it was so close.
Yeah, I mean, I think how close it was is why the ref didn't give it. I think if he's further away, even in that position, I think he gives it another couple of yards away.
No, fair. But then, as I said, like Arsenal are a great position, but I guess we have to look at Liverpool. I mean, like, and we don't want to take from Arsenal's kind of great mentality, which we could go into later, but ultimately Liverpool, I don't know. Is this a run of bad form? Because actually, to be fair, they lost to a good Arsenal side. So actually, and they did score 2 goals. They did come back when they were down. So like, actually, is it a bad run of form for Liverpool, or is there more cracks in the squad than we're actually letting on?
I'm going to give 3 reasons why I think Liverpool are so poor at the moment.
Go on.
Formation.
Yeah.
Formation. And formation.
Okay, elaborate. Go on.
I'm going to say the same thing I say on every stream, but I'll try and keep this one a little bit brief. So Mane was the runner in behind on a 4-3-3 that worked for Klopp. So he would be the person that would, Van Dijk or the centre-backs could have a quick attack. It could come through midfield, but he would break the lines. You've now got, and Salah has always hugged the right touch line. So Salah's the person that will receive the ball. The defence drop deep, leaves the space for Salah. With Mane going, yes, he's a big miss, but they now have Diaz in replacement. They now have Jota if they want to put in there, or Jota down the middle. They have now lost a player that stretches the back line like Mane did. So the issue with the 4-3-3, in my opinion, is that you're now playing football in front of the back 4. You're not breaking the lines with pace. And Salah doesn't, and that, in my opinion, is also why Salah is not getting the assist and goal return. Even in a 9-0 thumping, he didn't get 1 assist, right? That, if you put a bet on the Ladbrokes for Liverpool to score 9 and Salah not to get an assist, Christ knows what the odds would be. So for me, Klopp really has to look at an alternative way to get the best out of the players he's got. I think Núñez would score and be prolific at this level if he was played as a striker who didn't have to sit back as a free. He's not going to be breaking lines, right? Yeah. So either go to a 2 up top with Salah just being behind Núñez, in my opinion, on an old famous 4-4-2, or you could even you could even 5-3-2 it and have Robertson and Trent as wing backs. When is someone going to wake up and realise Trent isn't a right back? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But there's my detailed analysis. And I think if Klopp doesn't wake up and adjust his formation to the players he now has at his disposal, you'll continue to see the frailties.
So speaking of Salah, though, it was quite interesting that Tomiyasu was able to keep him so quiet, and I don't think people gave him enough props for that. But then he's not the only one. I think like people have just worked out Salah's game as well. So like as well as he's had a bad run, his form isn't great. I've always said that he's never started seasons well, anyway. But I think we're now 9 games in or so. So like. I mean, you start to think that he should be coming into form, but
if you give me Liverpool's side now, I mean, it's not going to happen, and I set him up with a different formation, do you not think I'd be getting more results than Klopp at the moment? I know I sound absolutely mad, but it is formation. Yes, the players are not playing well, but if the players consistently don't play well, you either look at the players or the formation. And in today's modern game, I know you're saying Salah's been worked out. He's been worked out for a couple of years, but people couldn't, because they had to defend the space in behind. They weren't able to defend Salah. They were defending the space because other people were breaking.
Yeah.
They're now able to stand upon Salah. When you look a bit and you watch a game, when have you known defenders to be able to stand on Salah like they are doing? That's the proof that the formation is not allowing Salah. You know, you might as well just have a right winger out there, because Salah isn't really a winger. He's an attacker who comes into the game.
He's an inside forward.
I just think they're making it easy to defend against.
Yeah. What do you think, Bill?
I think that how do I word it? Klopp is under a lot of pressure now. I think that after these results, they're not getting any better. The Rangers, I believe it was a win in the end. I think they changed the formation that game when Liverpool played Rangers, but I'm not sure 100% what happened there. But from what I heard, Klopp changed the formation to what was it? He changed formation pretty much, and it showed that they did play better and they did actually win that game, I believe. So, yeah, I agree with Joe on that front with the formation changes, but I'm not sure how long Klopp is going to be able to keep up at this level if he carries on playing the same formation. If he carries on playing this 4-3-3 with Trent not being able to defend properly, with Salah not getting in behind, without these attacking threats that they did have before with Mane, I don't see how much longer the owners of Liverpool are going to be happy
but
with.
He's racked up a lot of credit, isn't he? He's racked up
and I do feel like with him, it's like
I think he's almost,
go on.
I think he's got credit to go a whole season underachieving.
Yeah, and I think obviously with Núñez, it's interesting. Obviously, Firmino's coming to form. Like, you know, he scored. I mean, I knew he was always going to score against Arsenal. He loves it, so that was always going to happen. The Núñez, he's not doing too badly actually. Even I mean, he got involved with calming down the beef between Xhaka and Henderson, which I never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah, he didn't headbutt anyone.
Yeah, exactly. What a win for him. And like, so I think, and Diaz has kind of dropped off because obviously when he came into the side, he was like basically on fire. But then again, as we've talked about it before, like is it a Mane effect? I don't really know. So like I think they've got you know a couple of players that have come into form, but you've got a lot of players that have dropped off. So like your Van Dijks, etc. Robinson wasn't playing that great.
Henderson had a dreadful game.
Exactly, like it. So I think it's a combination of formation and form in that respect as well. Because I think formation wise, like I think Liverpool always had that kind of. They used to grind out results regardless, right? And actually, I'll be honest with this game. I thought, same as to Joe, that it might be a draw, just because mentally.
I said 3-2 Arsenal.
I had 2-2. Yeah, you did call it, Bill. I had 2-2.
I had 2-2 or potentially a win, depending on how we started. So as soon as Martinez scored that goal, I was like, we're going to win. But deep down I did. 58
well, they're
seconds.
going to do that when they score in like side 53 seconds or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, but it was a mentality thing, I think, with Arsenal and Liverpool, because obviously those battles have always been like epic, right? There's goals galore. Very rarely you'll get a 0-0 game. So like for me, it was one of those things where like mentally, I think Arsenal broke through, and I think that was the first time I saw Liverpool. I mean, they fought back. Let's not forget that. Like they did come back. They got back, and actually, to be fair, there was like a couple of spells in the first half where like they looked good. They looked quite dangerous, actually. It's probably like a good like 10, 15 minutes where they were actually looking like they got back involved. Obviously, then we scored, and I think that kind of killed it a little bit for them. But I think for me, it's just a difference in mentality of Liverpool about not grinding out that win. And actually, I don't know whether it is you need a Mane, because Mane used to pick up the game like the scruff of his neck and just like, I mean, he used to run, didn't he? He used to run at players, to try different things.
Like, how much he run down that left channel and drag the back four back.
Yeah, true.
Diaz cuts in, Salah cuts in. Nunes is not a player that goes forward. So I know I'm just keep going on, but how long is it until Klopp does try something different? Because it's clearly not working, you know?
Do you think... Okay. I was just going to quickly say, do you think Klopp's lost his magic in that sense? Because he's brought in players...
No, I think his magic is everlasting.
Let's be real here. He brought in Van Dijk, who was at Southampton. Yes, he was good, but was he the best in the world? Robertson from, what was it, Hull City, I believe?
Yeah.
He wasn't the best in the world. You had Mane.
You can say that about any player that makes it great.
No, but hear me out. Klopp has brought these players in and has made them the best in the world. But now he's bringing in players and... like Diaz, for instance, Jota, for instance, he's brought in these players and they haven't been to the heights of what he's had and what he's created. Because let's not forget that Mane coming in and Klopp building him as a player. Yes, Mane had the ability. Yes, Mane had the potential. But without Klopp, would he have reached the heights that he has reached? Potentially not. But Klopp's made these sorts of players into who they are now. And Nunes and Jota and the players that he's signing now, they're not seeming to bring that potential that the others sort of had, if you get what I mean.
I disagree. I think Diaz has been stunning since he joined them. I think
Jota's been great.
Jota, other than the injuries, has an outstanding record and has been extremely good. He actually pushed out Mane a couple of times in that Liverpool front three, and Diaz was an idiot and headbutted someone, so we haven't seen as much of him. Nunes, we haven't seen as much of him, but he does look a threat. So I don't think it's that, Bill. I get what you're saying, but I just don't think it's that. I think these players are developed and are doing well. I just don't think.
You think it's a formation change and tactics?
I think it's formation. I think it's a mix of formation. The effort that they put in last year was so great. I think you're seeing a little bit of a decline on how much that team put in to challenge.
Yeah.
But they had that, didn't they? Because when the first time round, was it when they pushed, when they won the Champions League, the next season they had like 5 injuries, didn't they, throughout their team, like the centre-back issues.
Yeah, it's a massive, they've not got the biggest squad in the world. And they've got some players that have been sort of regularly injured, your Thiagos and players that would play every week.
Keita. And let's not forget he's a Liverpool player.
So
we do forget that. We do forget that most times, actually.
And then you've got people like Van Dijk who have gone crazy. He's letting the ball bounce on the edge of the box. He would never have done that before. His decision making is all out. Trent is not just because the media. He's been defending poorly even when Liverpool were winning, but now he's being exposed a bit more because I think players have sort of seen that he's a little bit weak and that they're going at him. So I think all of that in the mix, it is why Liverpool are doing bad. But I still think they're going to finish 4th in the top 4.
So speaking, let's touching on that. What do you think Arsenal's title chances are then?
I'd put them at a good 20-1.
This kills me as a Chelsea fan. One thing that I did rate about Liverpool was the fact that City hasn't turned the Prem into a farmers league because there was other teams pushing. Liverpool were the closest to them in that sense, and Liverpool have declined a bit. And Arsenal are the only people really that are pushing City as much, which pains me to say that Arsenal are doing well, but credit to them with what Arteta's done, with the age of their squad, with how phenomenal they're playing. I I enjoy seeing that City aren't the only. Well, they're not. You could say they're head and shoulders above, but realistically, Arteta's still up there at the top. So I'm not sure in the league. Are Arsenal still first, or have?
Yeah, we're still
first.
1 point.
1 point. So,
by the way, for anyone who's watching, if you post your comments in there or your views on the games, we will touch upon your comments throughout.
Yeah. It's nice to see that. My point was, it's nice to see that City aren't just running away with it. And
yeah,
that's
I don't like to see
credit
anyone
Arsenal for.
Keeping up the kind of pressure. But the thing is, for me, even as an Arsenal fan, I can't see us winning the league this season because I don't think our squad is deep enough. I'm intrigued to see what happens in Jan if we are still first or second. Do we go out and spend a lot of money to kind of back up our squad?
You might get some fringe players. You may get some good players that bulk up the squad. I'm looking at Arsenal as I'm looking at Arsenal as yes. I think City will win the league easily this year. I think Arsenal's almost helping that job by keeping up with them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I can see Arsenal with the youth that they've got winning the Premier League within the next 3 years.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks.
If you had to sign one player, Michelle, to Arsenal to help boost the team, whether it be a first team player or a backup to help with the squad depth, who would it be?
So it'll have to be a striker, but who? That's the question.
So you don't think Nketiah is a good enough backup to Jesus?
Hell to the no. Hell to the no. I love the boy, but no.
Nice lad. Your mum would like him if he come round, but he's not that level.
No, he's not. And I think, we'll touch upon it when we get into the next game, but I think we've seen some of the players that we've had that we've sold to other teams and they're actually doing quite well. And I just think there's something about the Arsenal squad and the system that it's just not for everyone, is it? And I think we've seen the opposite of Jesus. Like, he's come into the team and not as if he's been there for like 4 seasons. He's playing with so much confidence and so much vibrance that it's amazing to see.
And he's relishing being played and liked, isn't he? Like I think that's all he wanted. That's the reason he moved. He wanted to play every game. He loves his football, So
personally, I'd sign Haaland, but apparently he laughed with the option of coming to Arsenal. So, I can wish and dream, but I think we definitely need a striker. I think a striker is what we do need, because I think, like, defensively, surprising, we're actually looking quite solid, actually.
Yeah.
So
Saliba's a beast.
He's amazing, but I think for me, it'll have to be a striker.
So who's your backup defence? You got Rob Holding. You got
Rob Holding, Cedric. We've got Tierney. Who else have we got?
See, I rate Holding.
Tommy.
I actually rate Holding. He's just injury prone. He would have been a top player had he not had so many injuries, but he's a really good player.
Yeah, and actually he looked really good in the Europa League game. Like, he obviously scored. So fair play to him. And I think he's apparently, some people that know him personally, he's a really nice guy. And I think he's been very patient. Like, sometimes he gets a couple of starts. He's basically a sub, isn't he? But he's been patient when he gets his chance.
For me, he's like the modern day Ledley King.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like,
I know, just a Tottenham example, but it's fine. We'll live with that.
No, but you get what I'm saying, Shell, don't you?
Yeah.
Absolute bags full of potential. And anyone who's coached him have said that he can make it right to the very top. He's just been really unlucky.
But that's happened with quite a few players, I think. Like Wilshere, for instance. Yes, he was very good, but he had a lot more potential than what he actually did finish his career with.
Glass legs, mate. Yeah. Glass legs.
Same with
he was a bit like Michael Owen. He finished ages ago.
Just want to give a quick shout out to Napa's mum, actually, because she said she's got a big household of Spurs fans. So apologies for my comment, but it's Arsenal. Naturally have to hate Spurs. But you've got all 4 grandchildren who follow the Reds. So that's brilliant. That's good news. Good news. But welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Jill's, I know Jill, her son, Ben, runs a platform called Cod Vlogs. They've got like 10,000 viewers, I think. He is the most knowledgeable lad and impartial lad that I know for Football League. He covers League One, but all of the Football League, and his knowledge is unrivaled. So if you don't follow Cod Vlogs.
Awesome. Great shout out. Just a quick one to touch upon the last point on this game. which I'm intrigued to hear everyone's point of view around the Henderson potentially racist comment to Gabriel. I'll be honest, I didn't hear anything about it until just now.
I've tried to look at his lips and try and get something out of the scenario, and I can't see anything. I mean, I've got nothing to base it on other than rumoured. There's not been anything said since the game. Henderson's character in the past, I've always thought he's a really, really good guy. So I'd be really disappointed, to be honest, if that was the case.
He was one of the main. What was it when that whole racism thing blew up with the Saka and the Euros final stuff? Wasn't there a meeting or something with certain players or that did a stop racism?
Yeah, I know I'm going to sound.
No,
I know I'm going to sound a bit. I don't know what the word is, but they're going to do that. If you play for England, racist, you have to be the person. I don't care about anyone who goes on a show that slanders it. I know this sounds bad, but you have to live it. You know, if I don't care if someone was on a show saying you shouldn't be racist, it doesn't mean that they fully support it. I look at a person's character, and to be honest, I almost don't want to give this question too much time on the basis that if it is true, I'll give this question a lot of time. But if it isn't, I think it's unfair to judge someone on such a heated issue for the last couple of years, because it is really important. And I mean, yeah, I'm not going to give it much time for that reason, if that makes any sense. But I pray to God he hasn't, because I thought he was a better person than that and had better character. So I'd feel a bit let down that my judgment of character was wrong. But I mean, I don't know him as a man, so.
I just want to quickly say one or two things have happened. It's either he said something racist or he said something to Gabriel and he's mistranslated it. And
yeah, that could have happened.
And it's either one of them things that could have happened.
Yeah. And it's one of the, and that's the thing, right? So it's a conversation. I mean, it's Black History Month, right? So I guess it's like, and everyone's taking a knee, as we've seen in most games. So I think it will be even more prevalent if that's happened, especially someone, as we've said, with Henderson's character. And I know he's been on, when Anton Ferdinand did his BBC documentary, he was one of the adults, and he actually came out and said when the whole thing happened with Suarez and Evra, he regrets not putting Evra front and center of that situation. So so with Henderson's, not that, you know, we know the ins and outs, but with him going on actual national TV and saying that, and actually recognizing the errors of how he handled that situation back then, I wouldn't like to think he would say something. But like I said, like Joe said as well,
in the same hand, he could have said something back then.
He could have, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
It's the same principle that if I get on my knee now, I'm following a principle.
Mm-hmm.
Your principle should come from yourself, even when you're in a situation where no one else is doing it. Being the bigger, braver, doing the right thing. I know I've done it in the past, and I've looked, you know, maybe the odd one out. That's why I don't look into anything that someone's done for a documentary or.
I'm not saying that, but I think like, but we'll talk about character. We only know players as far as we know them, right?
Yeah.
The reason why I say, and the reason why I make that point about him being on a documentary is because John Terry wasn't. And it was actually about him. So, like, for me, that spoke so many volumes. That said a lot. And this is part of the reason why.
Do you think they would have let him go on there if he said yes? Because
Anton Ferdinand asked him to go on there. He asked him to go on there. He actually said no. He was like, I've moved past this.
I'd like to get John's reference of that.
I mean, we wouldn't lie on a BBC documentary. He actually showed.
No, I know, but there's more sort of.
No. If you watch, do not watch the documentary, Joe. I'm actually challenging you to watch it because.
Yeah, no, I will.
It was actually very interesting. Even the way that the FA interviewed him versus Anton Ferdinand was different. So I'm going to stick by that. And my thoughts about John Terry. If you want to find that out, you know. Instagram me.
Think, Joe, if that situation that happened now, it would have a very different outcome and coverage.
But depending on the player, but that's my opinion. But anyway, let's quickly move on to the next game. So the next game was Man United 2, Everton 1. Obviously, Ronaldo scored his 700th career goal, which is amazing.
He's tucked a few away, isn't he?
Pardon?
He's tucked a couple away in his career.
Yeah, and someone said a stat, it was 20 years and 2 days since he scored his first goal, which is...
Should I give you another stat, which I thought
go on.
was astounding? Haaland would have to score 43 goals a year for 16 years to reach the goals that Cristiano Ronaldo has scored competitively.
Do you know what? He's got time. I'm joking. But yeah, I mean, you have to give
a year.
I know, but this is why you have to give Ronaldo. Like, there's so much debate about Ronaldo at the moment. Like, obviously, there's talks about he's technically a sub now, right?
Yeah.
And like a Europa League kind of player, but you have to give him props for what he's achieved. It's amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing.
I mean, I think Messi's better, but
we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
No,
not today. Not
so
today.
do I, Bill. Yeah, we haven't got a couple of hours on here, but so do I.
Credit where credit is due. Ronaldo's been.
Like Man United managed to sort of. I didn't watch the whole game, but stats-wise, they seem to have the better game, the more chances. I watched the highlights.
They looked
slightly better. Martial, I don't know if he got injured or was just taken off. I think he's injured, so that's not great. Injured. He started chipping in with a few goals and stuff already. They're just average, United. Very, very average.
You don't think that I think they could be potentially in the chance for a top 4 spot.
I would like to play them next week. They're the team out of the top 6 that they haven't got anything about them. They got Martinez, who I said at the beginning when everyone was, he didn't header a ball. Yeah, because he's 5'10". He's not 6 foot odd. He couldn't reach the ball. Martinez has been a fantastic signing. But you have so much dead wood in that starting 11. And what I mean by dead wood, I mean Fernandes is a creative player. If you've got a team with no legs, he's not going to be as creative. Mm-hmm. Rashford out of form, but he's not hitting the heights. Martial, who will get you a hat-trick 1 week, not score for the next 6. Inconsistent. Ronaldo's aging. Scott McTominay wouldn't get in my Sunday pub team around the corner. I love him. Passionate. And you know what? He works hard, but he is not that quality. Fred's gone down the wrong path in life. If he'd have chose City, he would have been an outstanding player. It would have been Rodri, and Rodri would have been him. I just think he joined a United side where he's not been able to excel or become a better footballer. Shaw has not progressed since the Euros. He's gone back to his normal self. Not good enough. Maguire needs someone to give his head a wobble because he's just not in form. And I do feel for him because he's got all the attributes to be a great centre-back, big and strong. But he's now, as Paul Merson said, he plays on the halfway line and he doesn't know what to do. And that's just going through the starting 11, really.
Well, you say starting 11. Malacia's been quite...
Malacia's decent. Yeah, Malacia and Martinez. And that's the good thing. That's the positive for United. They've made a couple of signings that look good.
Diego Dallo, right back. He's been coming in and he's been doing very well at the minute. I must admit.
Someone has to do well. You have to look at people and you have to say, have they got the quality? Because United fans, whether they like it or not, they don't want top 4. They want to be challengers for the Premier League that have been for 25 years, and so they should be with the financial backing they've got. Dallo doesn't get in any other top 5 side. No one takes him. Tell me another side that will take him, even for the bench, because I don't think you'll have anyone. And this is the thing with United. United, even with Ferguson, he made average players fit into a side and they would get better or they would be consistent. I just think they're probably the easiest ones to beat.
So do you think
in that top bunch?
So in that game yesterday, then, do you think actually it was basically Everton? I mean, Everton did well actually in terms of that in that result. Because I mean, you can't deny Man United won, right? So they still beat Arsenal.
To be honest, they've got 15 points from eight games. That's not a bad return at all, considering they got hammered by Brighton, and Brentford and Brighton. It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they're doing all right. but I just don't think they've got enough quality. I think when you look at Arsenal, when you look at Chelsea, when you look at Spurs, throughout the squad, you've got players that are even on the fringes that are good players at that level. I don't think United have got proven players at that top end level.
Yeah, I think they're probably still at the rebuilding stage, aren't they? Like they're probably a couple
very early on.
That's what I mean.
I like what I see with Malacia and Martinez, but I think they've got a lot more youthful building.
So do you reckon? So you reckon Ronaldo needs to go, stay?
Yeah, I mean, I never really understood the signing, if I'm honest. I mean, he's a great player, and he still probably would get you 15, 20 goals a season, and that's, that costs in the market these days 100 million to buy. But he hasn't got the legs that he used to have. He's not the player that he was because he is aging. It's not like a centre back that can slot into the centre back, and in many ways, it's easier to be a centre back, and that's why they normally notoriously prime at about 32, 33, and many of them go on to 36, 37. You don't really see many forwards that go to that level, and Ronaldo's only able to do it with his extraordinary physique, similar to mine. But it's you're born with it, guys, if you want to know. But yeah, I think it was a bad signing because the club was already in turmoil and needed a plan to move forward, similar to Arsenal.
Yeah,
in a sense of it was going to take a big churn of players and identity to get them going in the right direction. United.
But wasn't a signing of Ronaldo basically to stop him from going to City?
It was a panic buy. Yeah,
it was literally just to stop him to go to City.
I don't understand that. Legacy, no legacy.
I mean, this is Fergie you're messing with. Don't mess with that man. He was never going to have that. Imagine that. One of his best players going to obviously we know that this is his last goal.
But then to do that out of the detriment of making your own team progress.
Yeah, true. But Fergie's still living off his own kind of legacy, right? He can make that decision and it doesn't really affect him what happens to the team at this point, but we shall see. But going on to Everton though, Jill has said that she's always had a crush on legend Duncan McKenzie, so she's always got a soft spot for them. To be fair, I'm growing a little soft spot for Everton. I mean, I think just because of the fact that Iwobi, he seems to be coming back into his own. I've always liked Iwobi. Yeah, and he wasn't he did all right for Arsenal actually, to be fair, but he just wasn't. He didn't ever reach past a certain level.
He's a bit of a best of the rest player. He sort of always will shine in the middle team. He's got a bit about him, but just not quite enough for top level. But it's good to see him scoring and enjoying his football again. I think Lampard's got a big job ahead of himself. Everton has spent an awful lot of money over the last couple of years, which has gone to nothing. So I think they're going to struggle this year. I think because we obviously called that Lampard might. I say we, maybe it was just me. Lampard might be sacked pretty soon, but
I hope not.
Obviously,
I think someone in here. I mean, I've never mentioned it before, but I'm sure someone mentioned Tuchel getting the sack. But
I can't remember who that was, Joe.
I can't remember who it was actually. I got
called crazy at the time. I just want to say that.
But yeah, I think to be fair, yesterday's game, Everton didn't look too bad actually. They looked quite good actually, and I think with Man United also raising, because normally watching Man United I just get so bored. They are quite boring to watch live, but actually yesterday's game was actually quite entertaining. So I don't know whether it's because of the fact that they're slowly settling into the new manager's kind of system, role, what he wants to achieve, or I don't really know what it is. And I get what you mean, Joe, in terms of the team isn't.
I think Ten Hag has definitely created a better style of football.
Exactly.
I've been out, I didn't even think of this actually, but you've just mentioned it and it's true. I'm watching a United game now, sort of enjoying the football.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of years I haven't even been able to watch it.
It's always been dire and quite boring.
Rubbish. Yeah, and I'll watch anyone. I'll watch Fulham v Villa, Leeds. I quite often like watching Leeds because I think they're quite attacking. But I just couldn't watch United games because it's just so boring. So Ten Hag is getting that, but I just don't think he's got the personnel to achieve what. So I think it's a good appointment, but I don't think personnel-wise. Anthony's a bit of a flair player. I think he needed someone like him. But it'd be interesting to have a look at the next couple of signings.
For United so far, 3 and 3.
Yeah, he's done. He started well though, isn't it?
And the goals themselves, some of them actually have been belters, to be honest.
He reminds me, he's a bit Mahrez-y in a sense of that left foot. You know where he's going to go, but and that strike and the sort of touches he has.
Yeah,
I think there's a few similarities of him and Mahrez. I see, if I'm honest.
Yeah, fair. Right, let's move on to Billy's favourite subject: Chelsea, Wolves. Nil, actually. I mean, what do you think? I mean, one thing I will say about the Chelsea fans, I did appreciate and enjoy their kind of standing ovation to Costa when he got subbed off. I think that was a really classy, nice touch, actually.
Would they have done that if he scored and they 1-0 down?
Probably not.
Chelsea fans probably not, but it was a nice touch.
He's been our best striker.
Yeah.
And he's 100%. Been a clear. He was our last number 9 that actually did something. We had Higuain come in. He was useless. We had Morata. He was useless. We've had so many mistakes with strikers, that number 9 curse. And Costa was just such a... Yeah, he was unbelievable. And
how long was he with you? 3 years?
Yeah, he was...
Slightly longer. 4.
Did he win 2 Premier Leagues?
4. I want to say 4 he was with.
I want to say 4 years as well.
But he was unbelievable. And it's sad to see him come back to the Prem in the sense that he isn't the same player. But obviously, I'm happy because he's against us. He's not for Chelsea. So if he was on his best days, I would have preferred it with us like he was. But yeah, it was good to see him back in the Prem. But not much you can say about it, to be honest. It was nice, like you said, that we did give a standing ovation for him.
You happy with a clean sheet, Bill, under Potter? Because this season you've struggled, didn't you, with clean sheets wise? You seem to, be conceding and not keeping as many as Chelsea normally would. So is that something?
It's Kepa's clean sheet as well.
Do you think that's down to Potter and putting a bit of faith in Kepa and changing up that? I told you to
a little bit. I told you to a couple of weeks back. Well, no, a month back. I said we need to give Kepa more opportunities.
You did.
And you both laughed at me, didn't you?
We did. But do you know what? It's still
Mendy didn't help himself, let's be honest. He had quite a few mistakes before he was...
Yeah. Mendy's a better shot stopper. Kepa's better with his feet. And I think Kepa coming in and being used the way he is has been class. Our defence has been solid as well in that sense. Thiago Silva showing his class. I'm not being funny. He's 37, 38 now, and he's still looking unbelievable at his age.
You love him, Bill, don't you?
Huh?
You love him. He is a class act. He is a class act.
I mean,
Ryan, so good.
Ryan said that the team's morale is now up with a positive coach, which obviously I think, Bill, you probably would agree with.
And I said that when Potter joined. A lot of people were saying, he's not sort of managed a big club and how's he going to get on? But big club or not, yes, that's a massive expectation put on your shoulders. But he does play attractive, good football and positive football.
And that's what I was looking forward to.
And under Tuchel, it just felt like Chelsea were always trying to grind a result out rather than...
It was boring.
For a performance,
It was boring with Tuchel. And as much as I love the bloke and I don't think he deserved to be sacked, that's another topic in itself. I'm sure we've probably discussed that already. I'm happy with how Potter's come in and the way the team are playing now. We're looking a lot more attacking, a lot more positive. And I've noticed now that once their team hits the halfway line, we're on them. Our attack is pressing. Our midfield is pressing. And we've got the 2 midfield. So we play a 5-2-2-1, where the 2 attacking midfielders sort of go to wingers. and the way that's been playing has been phenomenal. It's been great to watch, and yeah.
There's a question for you here, Bill.
Go on then.
From Jill. A question for Billy. Why Chelsea? I think it's a good question.
So
why Chelsea? Why do you support Chelsea?
So I grew up in a Manchester United household. My family all supported Manchester United, I know, apart from my granddad. And I used to go around my granddad's house because my mum and they would be watching the United games. I would go to my granddad's and watch the Chelsea games. And I took a loving more for Chelsea than I did Manchester United. And I remember my favourite game being the Bayern Munich in Munich Champions League final, with Drogba being the clutch player for that game. And yeah, I've never looked back on Chelsea since, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a great final. That's, if you're young and you're undecided, that probably
definitely swung it that way.
Yeah.
But that's why Chelsea, yeah. But yeah, back onto the Potter subject. A lot of people are not crediting his past. Like, he took a fourth division team from Sweden, and in 3 seasons or 4 seasons, he took them to the top division. Michelle, you probably remember, he then beat Arsenal. He, with that Swedish team, beat Arsenal. They lost in the second leg, but he did manage to beat a top Premier League side at the time. So it's not exactly, I wouldn't say he's at the top level. He's coming into the top level now, but his resume and his CV definitely isn't as rubbish or non-qualified as people may assume. Because a lot of people seem to forget what he's actually done and been doing. But,
yeah, I think people forget sometimes of like English kind of managers in terms of like actually what credentials they're bringing to a team. And I think my only concern with him is like the characters in the dressing room. That's the only thing I'd probably worry, because obviously there's a lot of
that's what Aubameyang. He said that about Arteta. Sorry,
no, Aubameyang said about Arteta, but I mean, look who's higher in the league.
But then,
wait
till we play you.
I always find questions upon a manager who's never managed a big team. Yes, they're questions, but it's a bit out of order, really, to sort of say, well, you've never done it. So it doesn't mean you're not going to be good at it. What you say is credentials, and not a lot of people know about. And he's obviously earned the right to get a big job like Brighton for someone like relatively like him, who's sort of unknown,
Well, quickly, Brian did say he did wonders with Brighton.
Absolute wonders. He turned them into relegation every year. Like, that's what Brighton looked like when they first got, which, to be fair, a lot of teams do come up like that.
They struggled, didn't they?
Absolute free-flowing. They're probably one of the teams you don't want to play if you need a result, if you're one of the top sides now. Because they play football and they play the same way week in and week out, and they've got an identity. Whether they can keep that with their new manager, Brighton, remains to be seen. What do we...
Just quickly, Go on, Joe.
Go on, your point.
I just want to quickly say that there was sad news this morning about Brighton's player Mwepu. He's sadly retired from football at the age of 24 due to a hereditary heart condition, I believe it was, and the doctors told him that he can no longer play football. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that, and some sad news that's happened to a 24-year-old who was actually playing well for Brighton. He did very well with Potter, and he was a good midfielder for Brighton. But yeah, that's all I wanted to just give a shout out to. But go on, Joe.
Yeah, real shame for someone who's 24. Like, he's probably put his whole life into it, but hopefully he can sort of maybe still work around football, something like that. A lot of stars do who get, well, I say stars, I know he's not a star, but still a Premier League footballer. So hopefully he can still work around the game.
And actually, to be fair, you have to kind of look at the blessing and the scars. At least he wasn't in a situation where he had a heart attack or heart issue. While playing, and actually, the outcome could be even worse. But just wanted to touch upon quickly on Chalobah, actually, because it's actually quite a good point, actually, that Chelsea have yet to lose of him starting. Obviously, he's one of the younger players in the squad. I don't know, Billy, I don't know what your feelings are about Chalobah and actually his impact on the squad.
With the AC Milan game I watched, Chalobah came on, and I was worried at first because I wasn't sure how he was going to play with Leao attacking him, especially in that back three. Fofana came off injured. Chalobah came on and he bossed it. And I'm so happy to see Chalobah. He was looking just like a lone player. He looked like someone that we were just going to loan out and keep loaning out until eventually he didn't want to be at Chelsea. But we did give him chances and he did shine. He proved that he wasn't here to just be some
He shined before. I remember him having a couple of games run before. I don't know why he sort of has a couple of games and then gets left out for months and months on end. I just don't. I don't understand, because I rate him, Bill. It's not me being negative. I just think a player at that age who is playing well, yes, they're not going to play week in and week out with Chelsea's squad, but he needs to be in and around the fringes and getting more minutes consistently. Otherwise, you're never going to know the sort of heights he can hit, really. And do you know what? There's no better time than now to get sort of minutes with, Silva and players of that caliber and just learning off them. So I just hope that this is not another performance that's followed up with another one-off game in March.
I think it's all down to how injuries go and how other centre-backs go. The strongest for me would be Fofana, Koulibaly and Thiago Silva. I don't think Chalobah gets in it for me. But he's definitely
but he could be rotated. If you're playing a lot of games, and he could play the Europa League or the odd game if someone's had a knockout. They're back three.
Champions League.
Sorry, I'm thinking next season.
Europa League.
I'm thinking next season. Sorry, Bill.
Right.
So he could possibly play in Europe, or if one of them gets a knock. I just don't want him not playing at all, because that's what's happened previously. And I don't think it's all been down to injury for whatever reason.
Just want to give a quick shout out to Ryan and saying that he said his personal opinion on Potter is a dark horse. So I think he's fully in agreement with both of you. I think Ryan was obviously quite shocked at some of the formations he's played. I don't know, Bill, if you agree, but he seems to grind out results by changing them. So,
one thing I love about Potter, just quickly, is the fact that he isn't one-dimensional with these tactics. He can play a 4-3-3. He can play a 4-2-3-1. He can play a 3-2-2-1 or 5-2-2-1. Sorry, he can play these different formations and still get the best out of the players, and that's what I like to see. The unpredictability that Potter has going into games that's so dangerous coming against Chelsea, because Arteta, for instance, could look right. Chelsea play a back five. We can set up this way. And Arteta,
I get what you're saying. Potter's allowing them to be not as predictable formation, and even the people he's starting. Yes, that can be difficult to coach sometimes because you're bringing people in and out, but it does give you a little bit of an evasive side to teams that are possibly trying to work you out.
Because the biggest problem is I don't think many teams are going to be able to predict what Chelsea are going to do for their next game, formations-wise. We are probably going to be playing the 5-2-2-1. That's our most used formation so far.
But who's going to play and how are they going to play?
Is
Cucurella starting? Is Chilwell starting? It's quite a mix-up with Chelsea.
I love Cucurella. I absolutely I think he's a class left-back. Don't get me wrong, he's not the best in the world, but he is a good left back. And the problem we have now is that Chilwell isn't exactly a bad left wing back. He was going through a rough time of it, and that's why we were bringing in a left back with Cucurella. But the problem now is that we have a 60 million pound player and a player that they're both pretty similar. They're both that left wing back player that can play well, and we just have to rotate around them, play.
So would you prefer consistent rotation, Bill, or would you prefer, as a Chelsea fan, one of them to really make it their own and make sure the other one's second? Because I think I would prefer someone to really shine out of them two and have one. I don't really want to be messing around with left backs all the time.
The problem is, though, Potter's going to have a soft spot for Cucurella. Like, Cucurella at Brighton with...
Is that why they bought him? That's another question, isn't it?
But the one thing I am sad about is that we sold Billy Gilmore to Brighton. He's a young Scottish midfielder. He looked class. his debut for Chelsea in the FA Cup, he got man of the match. He did.
Yeah, but he played a couple of average games since then.
He did. He dropped off quite quickly.
He dropped off massively. He went on loan to Norwich and looked about their level. So I think Billy Gilmore, in my opinion, is a good player. But he's one of these youngsters where everyone goes, "Oh, the hype Billy Gilmore," but you just have to face it. He's not good enough.
Yeah. So moving on to the next game, Man City or Southampton 0. I mean, there's only one real player to talk about. I will actually say that Foden as well, but Haaland, I mean, what a
rubbish player. I mean,
I love him so
60
much.
60 minutes, he done absolutely nothing. Ready, I'll say something someone else said the other week to me, and I just looked at him like, don't speak to me about football again. They were like, but he only touched the ball twice. And he scored twice. To be fair, he had quite a few touches at the weekend. I feel like Haaland's going to be the topic of the subject every week, so I'm going to change my focus straight away.
To Foden?
Mr. Foden.
What a player.
He would be my England team build-around. He would be my Odegaard and Saka to Arsenal. He was quite
quiet in the Euros though, Foden, but I mean he's looking good. I think it's quite the Euros is quite a big stage, right? And actually
what Southgate does to him, Shell, what Southgate does to Foden positionally in an England shirt is criminal. I love Southgate, but Foden is an absolute class act and a potential, in my opinion, a potential Ballon d'Or winner.
Yeah, I actually agree.
I cannot believe that I watch him week out and the stuff he does and the way he scores and the positions he takes up, and then I watch him in an England shirt and it's like he's Gareth Barry. Like it is criminal. It is criminal. And I do love Gareth, and I'd make him a cup of tea. He's a nice bloke, and I'd make him a sandwich. But I'd have to say, Gareth, stop playing him on the right wing. Stop doing that.
Ryan's got a point. Okay, he wasn't quiet. He was just outshined. I mean,
outshined.
I don't know if I agree with that. I did actually go to the England-Croatia game and watch that. I think it's always different when you watch it live. Or actually watch. I mean, I was watching Pickford for most of it because he was just shouting all the time. But there was some. I don't know. I don't know whether it was a confidence thing with Foden, but he just wasn't.
Wasn't him.
It wasn't a Foden we see in Man City. Like even.
Did you not notice he was hugging the touchline, not playing in a sort of free number 10 role?
Yeah. So to be fair, you've got a point. Maybe it is Southgate in that scenario, but yeah, I think
Southgate. There's no disappoint about it.
100% is Southgate with Foden. I've got 100%. The next England game he starts, if Southgate continues, just watch it where he is on the field in comparison to where he would be given a license.
We did watch along.
And I think that's Southgate almost not having confidence that England are good enough to play in that controlling way. Yeah. And in my opinion, this is going to sound daft because I love Foden, but if you haven't got the confidence that your team can have possession and have a person in a number 9 position, then don't play Foden because there's better people who can play out on the wing.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. And I think Foden in Man City, like especially with playing with Haaland, like that link up with those two is amazing as well. I just think Haaland actually being in the squad is making him a better player as well. Yeah.
And I'd like to get Haaland's thoughts on playing with Foden because he's come with playing with some good, really good top players. We're looking at, top level at Dortmund. But I think even he will go, Christ, player on our hands here. I think he would be a good person to assess the English talent that is Foden, how big that talent is. And I haven't seen an interview of him mentioning it yet, but I'll be really interested on his.
Yeah, I would as well, actually. So Southampton, go on.
I was just going to quickly say that one thing that has annoyed me, not with Haaland, but a lot of critics saying, "Oh, they're tapping goals. Oh, they're easy goals. Oh, he's getting everything on the plate."
Shut up.
The skill
critics, they're lunatics.
The skill he has to be able to get in the positions to score the tap-ins is what people don't see. And I think Haaland is unbelievable. I think he's going to be the next best thing. I think that I would take him over Mbappe. I think
I
Haaland.
think he looks like a year 11 against year 7 boys.
Yeah,
It's embarrassing.
he's tall, he's quick, he's strong, he can hit a ball, dribbling. He's not actually bad at. And I think that in that City team, I think one of Guardiola's biggest issues was he didn't have that number 9. He didn't have that main man up top that could just bag everything that De Bruyne, Foden, everyone put in the box. And yeah, I think that with that now, with Haaland, you can see the likes of De Bruyne, Foden, all these great players getting the ball, getting the assists, getting the goals. And the way Haaland's going with his goal scoring, he could finish if he carries on, he'll finish the league on 66 goals.
Yeah, he's
not as good as my 67, but can I give a big shout out as well to it kills me. I'm a Pompey fan for anyone that's watching. So to even shout out anything to do with that team beginning with S shouldn't happen. But Gavin Bazunu, he will go to. I'm going to sound like Harry Redknapp now. He will go right to the very top. I don't know if anyone watched.
He showed a lot of class.
All the extending highlights.
Some of the saves he would
make.
Gavin
Bazunu is the best youngster in 30 years I've ever seen at Fratton Park.
Damn, that's a statement.
Was it Mount at Pompey?
Might have been as a kid, certainly not at sort of 15 and up level.
Yeah. Okay.
So no, not as he might have been as a schoolboy, but not as a fringe player. Yeah. Well, I've seen some players. So I've seen, I say I've seen some players. We haven't produced loads of youth. We've not got an academy like Southampton, but I've seen players like Matt Taylor. Was probably one of the better ones. Should have had an England cap. He's one of the best people that I've seen at Fratton Park. He's not League One status. He's already saved the penalty from Ronaldo. I know that doesn't really matter. Anyone can save a penalty, but his distribution is as good as I've seen in any keeper. And I've obviously seen David James. I've seen. I know you're laughing with David, but I'm saying I've seen when Pompey were in the Premier League. I've just never seen a youngster with his talent ever.
Yeah. That's fair. But even saying that though, should we be worried about Southampton? Are they?
No, I think they'll get enough points because I think they're a little bit. They've got just enough. I think they've got a little bit more than other players. So, he joined Chelsea at the age of 6, Mason Mount. So yeah,
that shows my knowledge.
But where the earlier question about Wolves, will they get relegated as well? So it's like who is in that relegation battle? Do we reckon?
I think there's a good 7 or 8 that are going to be in that sort of battle. I think Wolves have got enough. I think Wolves will go on a bit of a run in a minute. I've watched them. My concern for Wolves is whether they've got enough up top. I think their team is actually one of the best out of that 7 or 8 that I'm bunching a potential relegation.
Is Southampton in that battle as well?
I'd put Southampton, Leeds, Everton, Brentford, Forest. Who else we got? Surprisingly, Leicester are bottom of the table. I'm not putting them there.
That's interesting. What about Fulham? I mean,
Fulham. Yeah.
So West Ham, 3? Fulham 1. You said obviously you think Fulham are in the relegation battle.
Will be.
Or will be. Okay.
I think is Mitrovic injured for a few games? Have they said how long he's out for?
They haven't said how long he's out for, but
I can't believe how ordinary they looked without him, to be honest. They looked a bit of a shambles.
Yeah.
It's not just him scoring goals. He's such a figure for them to sort of spearhead attacks. You know, he holds the ball up well. He's a menace. Yeah. I think losing him is not just about the goals. And I think when I look at how Fulham looked against West Ham, and to be honest, 3-1 is a fair reflection of the game. It's more than his goals they'll miss. And it just makes me realise, well, what happens when Mitrovic isn't in form? Have they got anyone else that's really going to step up? No, I don't think they They will. So I think they'll be in that sort of 8 that I'm saying, as well as Bournemouth.
Yeah. But what about West Ham? Obviously, West Ham's a funny club, isn't it? Like,
I think they'll come good, and that Skamaka is very, very highly rated, and actually starting to do bits. He's starting to look a half decent player. Good signing.
Yeah,
I think West Ham are a up and down club at the minute,
but they're going to have enough. I can't see them being in a relegation battle.
Oh no, they will not be. I don't think they'll be relegation, but I think that getting into European football has definitely stopped their focus on the Prem as much. So I think that it's a lot more difficult now with the extra games for them to balance it out with their squad.
And it's sort of what I'm saying with Liverpool. I know we spoke about Liverpool earlier, but that comparison to be able to challenge on all fronts. Obviously, Liverpool got a bit bigger and better squad than West Ham, but it's very similar. Very difficult when you're a team like West Ham to keep the levels up of probably overachieving in the Premier League and playing midweek as well as your other cup games with such a tight squad. Really, really difficult, to be honest. And I think West Ham really needed that win to take a little bit of pressure off Moyes and the club in general, because I don't think they'll achieve maybe what they expected or were hoping for this year in the Premier League.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I just want to quickly touch upon the little battle that's going on between Ryan and Shane. So Shane thinks that Leicester will finish rock bottom. So Joe disagrees. Whereas Ryan thinks that Maddison will carry Leicester out of the relegation. Which to be fair, but then Maddison's one of those players that he's very good. I mean, he's obviously suffered injury as well, but I don't think he can do it. He's not that type of player to do it alone.
I don't think he's a player that would drag any club out of anything. He's a goal scorer. I like Maddison. No, I think Maddison's a talent, but there's players that can drag teams.
Yeah,
there's Xhakas, there's Gerrards, there's Hendersons, there's players.
You just said Xhaka and Gerrard in the same sentence?
In terms of quality of being able to drag a team, yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm not saying they're the same level. I'm saying they are players. They are players with attributes and personalities that can drag teams.
Yeah.
Maddison's
fair
not.
Yeah, fair.
So I think Leicester get out of there because of quality, and I think there's that bunch that I'm talking about this year, which is 8, possibly even more, allows Leicester, when they hit a form, to pick up quite a few points, and I think they will.
Yeah, I think Maddison needs a big move.
Well, there was talk about him coming to Arsenal at one point.
I do not sign him, Shell. Put the blocks out. By the way, I rate Maddison. I do rate Maddison. I think you've got to improve your team. And when you've got Vieira coming through, who looks a class player for 35 million, you've got enough creativity in that front line to light up Man United 10 times. Why would you go and spend 60 to 80 million, which is probably what it would cost to get Maddison, who potentially might not be able to, and in my opinion, wouldn't kick you on further than what you are now?
I would understand him at Chelsea because he can play right wing and in the midfield. He's very similar to Mount in that aspect, that they're both quite attacking players with the goal scoring and the assists wise. And I could see him fitting into Chelsea, but because we do have Mount and Sterling and other players, I can't. Where could Maddison end up? Because I do feel that he deserves a bigger move.
I think he could end up in Tottenham.
I mean, that's about
Tottenham's a fair shout.
I could see him as more of a Spursy type of player. Do you know what? He reminds me of a very similar level to James Ward-Prowse.
Okay, really? Okay.
Yeah, where he probably should get a shot at a bigger club, but really on the fence whether he could make it, and I don't think his attributes would be quite enough. It's very similar with James Ward-Prowse. I think he's a really good player, but he's just not good enough to definitely be bought by one of the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, current form. That's fair. Right, I think that nicely wraps us up, though, guys. So thanks very much for joining us, guys. I know Ryan and Shane are still battling it out on their opinions on Leicester, Maddison, all of it. But it's peace and love, guys. But join us next week at 8:00 for some more chat on Premier League results.
And if you haven't done already, like and subscribe to our channel for bants every Monday.
Pretty much.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Yep.